Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the channel. A little bit of a video in the wee hours of Sunday morning before the big football game. I'm making this right now because I was actually procrastinating quite a bit and I should have made this video hours ago. Nonetheless, this will be available on Sunday morning just to give you a bit of a heads up on an upcoming collaboration there. You can see it on the screen. I'll include a link to this in the description, and as a little bonus, since I'm making this so late in the game here, I'll actually grab a couple of tabs here that are not so much updates on kind of stuff that we talked about on the channel and on the live stream this weekend, but also mostly adding a little bit of information, a little bit of additional context on some of the stuff, and giving a bit of an example because I'll show you a video that pertains to one person that had some issues with eBay's new authentication service, which we talked about a fair bit on the live stream and some of the implications of that. But I'll give you an example of that and include a link to that in the description as well. So all of the above. So here's the collaboration I'm talking about. Rollin' with FD, the YouTube channel, has invited a whole bunch of us to participate in a Super Bowl after party. So you can see there it is starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So this will be kind of as the game is winding down, and then it'll be in different waves. So you can kind of see from the screenshot here, but I'll quickly read off a couple. So you can see, obviously, I've got my little channel image there. You got Personal Finance Dad, Flippin' Steve, Sports Card Anonymous, and others. So basically, it's going to be, it's not going to be these many people on the screen at the same time, but it is going to be in these waves of folks. I'll be joining in, I believe, the live stream around 10 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, is kind of the way it works out. So it'll be a group of folks there hanging out for a while, talking about, whatever ends up coming out of it, the game or sports cards or whatever the case is going to be. And then I guess there'll be like a second wave of folks that I'll be part of, and then a third wave after that. So if you enjoy any of these content creators or YouTubers and want to get a chance to kind of do a little Super Bowl after party, you want something to watch after the game's over, this is an opportunity if you want to check that out. Like I said, it'll be a link in the description. And I made mention of it on my Instagram stories as well. So if you follow me there, you'll probably get a little information on that as well. Second thing I'm going to do here real quick for you is this is from Sports Collectors Daily, a little article summarizing some of the information. We knew Marx Cards was on the ropes already a little while ago, and as some of you may already know by now, they officially did file bankruptcy. So this is from February the 9th. So I'll fill in a couple of things here. They did a good job on Sports Collectors Daily summarizing a lot of the information in the Chapter 7 filing. So they filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Now, specifically, they mentioned that it listed assets in the amount of just under $90,000 with liabilities over $1.36 million. Paul Lesko did a pretty good summary of it as well, but it's already kind of buried in his Twitter a little bit. So this is a little bit of a synopsis of it. They blame a lot of different folks. They blame the bookkeeper, some issues related to that. They also blame a little bit related to, they show the different levels of revenue they've been making, how many different creditors there are, a huge list of creditors. And they also kind of blame PSA for not having the cheap grading as part of the issue that created a thing for it. Kind of pointing out, though, that kind of what we discussed before, one thing that should be repeated is that the whole business model was supposed to be that you took this money up front and are supposed to be holding it. So it should have been there regardless. And if your entire business model was based on this turning it over, then the fact that the rest of your business wasn't doing well is your own problem, and it obviously created a bigger problem for everybody else, that to the sense that PSA needed to respond to it. But this gives a little bit of a synopsis if you're kind of curious about some of the details without wanting to look through all the legal filings or try to find the old Paul Lesko tweets. This one does a pretty good job outlining some of the key pieces, and it'll give you a little bit of background info if you are curious and want a little more information on that. One of the things that's going to be interesting coming out of it is we already know PSA's made some policy changes as far as taking a bit of a deposit, I think 50% for these bulk submitters, getting rid of the the fourth party, the middleman kind of thing. So basically making this less likely going forward. The question then, of course, is going to be if there's going to be any additional vetting pertaining to any of the recommended, group dealers or submissions places, because going forward, that's going to be something. I did mention, though, and this is kind of an important piece, is that on YouTube's own list of dealers, they do make mention that they make no warranties about it. So maybe it's going to be something where they may need to consider exactly how they're going to list it. Having a list of dealers always creates a little bit of it creates a sense from the person reading it that it's almost an endorsement, even though it's not necessarily one, and even though they do have language kind of outlining that it's not an endorsement. But it does create its own kind of different concerns and liabilities as far as that's concerned, and we'll have to see if that changes going forward. And last and certainly not least, I wanted to kind of highlight this YouTube video, which is from a gentleman here, Scandals, Cards, and Comics. And they had this live stream. They actually two different live streams. They had one live stream where they originally opened and revealed this card on the right, which was a Scarlet Witch Precious Metal Gems, which they received through the eBay authentication service. But as you can see on the right there, this has been kind of a reoccurring problem. We did reference it on the live stream, and I gave an example of a Ken Griffey Jr. Card that was received, and it was shown on Twitter. But this one is have two different YouTube live streams. One of them when they opened up originally, and then this is kind of a follow-up outlining some of the details and giving a little background information on it. But as you can see, they've kept it inside of the package, inside of the Card Saver 1, and inside of the little bag that came with it. But, you know, very similar to the Ken Griffey Jr. card that I did show on the live stream. You can see that out of the Card Saver 1, the card has slid all the way up, and he's even starting to come out of the penny sleeve. So this has been kind of a reoccurring problem as far as this whole thing. Again, kind of what I outlined in the live stream is that at the end of the day, I don't care if they send out 10,000 of these. What people are going to remember and what's going to stick with them is incidents like this, especially so soon after this policy started, especially given that the threshold on this is $750 and above, meaning that any cards that have an issue are already very expensive cards. And given, of course, that it is mandatory. So based on eBay's policy currently, if it's over $750, you're forced to send it to a third party who's going to do the authentication, in this case CSG or CGC, but then there's the opportunity for damage there, and then additional opportunity for damage as far as getting it from, you know, point B to point C. By adding one more layer into this, you create another layer of problem, and this has been cropping up. Again, this is not everything, and this is not every example. There are probably, you know, 10 times or 100 times as many examples compared to each one where it works out fine. But obviously there is an issue here with the way they ship it, and that's something that's going to have to be addressed. Now, I mentioned this video for two reasons. One is that it gives you a specific example with somebody discussing it on video showing the card in question. But then secondly, in the comment section, eBay's YouTube account itself, the PR group for eBay, actually does respond to this. So I'll quickly read it. Stephen, we are sorry for your card arrived the way it did after being in transit. We are confident the card was placed properly in the penny sleeve / card saver at the authenticator, but it appears to have moved while in transit prior to your unveiling. Now, I have no issue with the PR team trying to put a spin on this, but saying we are confident the card was placed properly in the penny sleeve saver at the authenticator, I'm sure you are, but it appears to have moved while in transit, maybe. That's speculation on your part. It's almost impossible to definitively say that for sure. But anyway, it says, please let us know if you have not been able to get in contact with anyone in customer service, and I can probably assist you in getting the appropriate team to address your issue. Which is fine. Like, as a general kind of response, I get it, but it's probably not best. I'm only speaking from experience working in customer service. It is usually not best to try to start off a conversation with mitigating. Do not try to make excuses off the top, or do not try to mitigate it. Try your best to get as quickly as possible to the resolution part. What can we do to fix it? Focus your attention on that. Again, I'm speaking from experience, and I'm speaking as somebody who was on the customer service side of things, and I'm also speaking as somebody who did escalations. So if somebody's already kind of upset with you and dealing with something that they're having an issue with, it is probably best to focus as much of the attention as possible, as quickly as possible, on how can we solve this? How can we make it right? Don't begin leaning into the excuse portion of it. I'm not blaming the eBay PR team, because at the end of the day, PR folks are always trained to do this, but do not try to downplay the rationale for it. It is very clear from the image that this card is slipping out. We can tell it's slipping out. We can see the card. The other piece of it is obviously, regardless, there is going to have to be something done about it, because in this instant, one of the other things that they make very clear here is that the corner looks like it's been touched up. Now, the problem is that it is a precious metal gems card. So these are very prone to chipping, and it's very easy to damage them. Even at the best of times, you're not likely to get a really high grade on a lot of these, because they are super prone to chipping. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this kind of foil, especially how thin it is and how easily it is to chip. So anything as far as transit that could potentially, touch up a corner, touch up an edge, immediately brings down the value, because you can damage it very quickly, bring it down the grading scale, and take something that's already very expensive. Because all the cards that we've been looking at that have had a similar type of issue to this, where the card saver or the card seems to be coming out or whatever, of course, because it's $750 minimum, a lot of these are $1,000 plus multi-$1,000 cards. So naturally, that's going to elicit an even stronger reaction. Now imagine the idea here that there could come a time not far in the future where A, you get charged for this, and B, it's still mandatory, and C, on top of that, the threshold falls to something like $250 a card, which is something that has at least been discussed and projected, and I think eBay had it in its literature. That could lead to a world of hurt as far as these little problems, unless you can figure out and refine your process. This card should have absolutely no movement in play. It should be secured in some way. Again, the fact that it is required, it is not optional, it makes it very tricky. So I'm back to my overarching statement about it, that totally understandable why it exists. I can see a lot of reasons why eBay would want to have this, just from a liability standpoint, from removing a lot of the return standpoint, from reducing the amount of issues with, counterfeits and fake cards and stuff like that. But already, that this process needed to be very carefully refined, because you knew you were going to get pushback. You had to have known. And if you didn't know, then I would really look in the mirror and be like, are you guys even thinking this through all the way? Because you had to know there would be pushback. Pushback itself is not necessarily the end of the world. There's a lot of things that end up working out fine that people give pushback to. But if you know you're going to get pushback, you had better make sure that you have at least, dotted your I's and crossed your T's, as far as having a process figured out that you've tested. Honestly, if I was in eBay shoes, I would test this, in the sense that I would make sure, go through the whole process a bunch of times, and I'd mail some stuff out to folks and be like, all right, let's just try it out. Let's see, make sure that, everything gets where it's supposed to get to, because they came up with this whole package, this whole little blue box and all this stuff and everything. It's like, you know what? Try it, shake the damn thing and see if stuff, see if stuff moves around. Again, it's easy to say this after the fact. I understand that. But I'm just saying that you have to do a little quality control check. You have to almost assume the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that can happen here? And then prepare and plan for that, because you never know, and you can expect that you're going to hear about it, especially in the world of social media, if people have a problem. So anyway, I will leave this link to this video in the description. He does a very good job explaining kind of what happened with this case, and then of course in the comment section you can see the little thread there started by eBay. eBay does respond also, in addition to the initial response, and you can check that out yourself. And a little additional feedback here, take it for what you will. It's a little additional context and another example. Again, my goal is not to say that, oh man, all of them are going badly. I doubt that. I suspect that the majority of them are probably being shipped out, and they're probably fine. People obviously aren't happy that they're being forced to use this. But if you are going to be forced to use this, then you better make sure you got your process down pat, because obviously this Card Saver 1 and this little bag thing is not working. And there are already even a handful of examples in such a short period of time are way too many for a program that literally just got started and that is supposed to be expanding rather than being contracted. We'll have to see what happens with this going forward, and how eBay responds to these critiques and criticisms early on. And honestly, to be fair, they're deserved. The process hasn't been fully baked. Still a half-baked idea here that's being executed, and we'll see what happens with it going forward. Anyway, so that's it for me. Hopefully this little extra gives you a little bonus content to go along with the, directing you to Rolling with FD's channel for that little collaboration. Hopefully you guys enjoy the game. If you do end up watching it, I have no horse in the race, so I'll just be hoping for a good game. That'll be what I'll do on my end. More videos to come on the channel, and then live streams as always on Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back at it again next week, and then whatever additional videos and whatever the content gods decree, we'll make some videos about that. Anyway, that's it for me for now. Thanks very much. We'll catch you in the next one.